Hello, and welcome to this special interview series. My name is Dr. Diana Canto-Sims. I'm an optometrist and a practice owner, and today we are diving into one of the most exciting ways to grow and scale your practice and how to stand out from the competition, creating your own private label frame collection. I know from experience that the idea of launching a signature eyewear line for your practice can feel a little overwhelming. Where do you even start? Who can you partner with? And what does the process look like? That's exactly why I created this series. I'll be sitting down with several companies that specialize in helping optometrists like you and me and optical shops design and launch their own private label frame collection. Each of these companies takes a slightly different approach. Some offer curated, ready to brand collections, while others, like the one today, help you design a fully custom frame from scratch. Many also offer marketing and merchandising tools to make sure that your collection is a success. My goal is to ask questions that you would want answered as an optometrist so that you could see which option is the best fit for you and your practice. Let's jump in and meet today's featured company. LFVR Eyewear is a company that is all about craftsmanship and offering designs that reflect the personality of your practice. Whether you're looking for fully custom designs or carefully curated frames, they work closely with optometrists and optical shops to deliver something unique. Let's hear how they guide you through the process from concept to delivery. Today we have our guest, Travis from LFVR Eyewear. Travis, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company and the services that you offer related to private label eyewear for optometric practices.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be a part of this and for us to kind of get a little bit of a feature here. So, I'm Travis LeFevre. I'm a third generation optician. We're based out of northern Utah, and I've grown up around the industry, worked in various roles from optician, manager, store owner, sales reps, kind of hit everything in between before I was able to learn how to make frames. Our entire goal here is to give independent opticians and optometrists the opportunity to kind of stack up and scale your own brand in a way that really hasn't been done before. So many private label options that we've had in the past have been something where we take pre-designed frames, you can stamp your logo or your brand name on them, and then that's kind of where your customizations stop. Because we do everything in-house now, you can, like you said, design a frame from the ground up. You can take from our pre-designed catalog and customize to your heart's content. I mean, we can change eye sizes, we can change bridge fits, temple lengths, and really anything in between. So we're here to try and give you guys the opportunity to really create what you want to rather than having to make a sacrifice where you may not want to and do something that doesn't fit your exact vision.
So, when we talk about private label frames, right? I want to talk about why should we do it, right? What are the benefits of having of your private practice having their own branded frames compared to maybe having your dispensary filled with name brand, right? Because I know that there are many practices that say, no, I have to carry XYZ because people ask for it. And that's fine. You should have a small selection of those frame brands that are familiar to your patients. However, there's a lot to say about why to have your own curated collection and what the benefits are. So tell us about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll be the first one to say it's really, really difficult to stock your entire dispensary with your own brand, right? There are always going to be people looking for whatever name brand it may be, whether it's something like a Ray-Ban or something like Prada or Gucci. You're always going to have those patients that want those things. But the conversations I have most often are look at how much time most people are spending on social media, out in your community. You're really trying to build your brand, build your following. with your patient base. But as soon as they get in your office, they go through the exam, have this great experience, they're then sent out to this optical shop, the dispensary, and they just find frames that they can find so many other places and shop around, whether that's online, at a competitor shop, something like that. When you're able to offer your own collection, it can only be found where you want it to be. So it really gives you the opportunity to tell a story, relate it back to your office and the amazing care that you're already giving, and gives this full circle spot where they're now wearing your frames for the next year or two and are going to fall in love with them and keep coming back and wanting your brand rather than somebody else's.
And I think the point that you set that I love, and I have experienced myself in my practice, is my stylist optician will style a patient, right, in one of our private label frames, and the patient will say, "Ooh, I really like how these feel." And they start looking for the brand and they're like, "What brand is this?" Oh,
Yep.
and then we start talking about the story of our brand. And then they whip out their phone to
Yep.
see if they can find it online.
Yep, for sure.
So if that's going to happen, if you're showing them a brand name that is sold online,
Yeah.
now you just became a showroom,
Yep,
right? And
exactly.
that prescription is going to walk out
Yeah.
because they're like, I just found these, it, assuming it's the authentic, right? Because
Right.
there's a lot of, they're making the assumption it's authentic.
Yep.
And oh, wow, I could get it so much cheaper
Yep.
online. Thank you. I'll take my prescription.
Yep.
By having your own private label, you're able to control the quality, the
Yeah.
design, but also that exclusivity of the patient saying, "Oh, so I can't get this anywhere but here,"
Yeah.
is just that alone is a great benefit, right?
Yeah, well, and I was lucky enough. I mean, I have an optical shop as well that my grandmother started. And when we started making frames, we didn't necessarily have the thought that we were going to be doing like wholesale business to business stuff. It was really with the intention to give our clients and our patients a really interesting option where they could kind of design their own pieces or have that conversation with them while they're looking like, hey, this is actually made right here. We control the quality, like you said. You can choose your colors. We can make sure that they fit exactly how they should be. And a lot of the time, they're getting like a one of one frame, which they think is really, really cool. So being able to talk about that and yeah, having kind of a plan for when you are getting showroomed, most of us have kind of experienced that to some extent. It's nice to be able to offer something that really can't be found anywhere else. And I feel like that's a big thing right now. It's those limited edition things, right? We've seen it in this industry over the last 4 or 5 years, really starting to catch on. It's cool to be able to offer something that they can only find with you.
Absolutely. So walk us through what the
Mhm.
process looks like. Let's say, okay, I'm a practice owner. I think I want to do this. What does it look like from start to finish?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have kind of two main avenues that we will guide you through. So the first being our private label, which it's basically we have this catalog. I think there's 70 some odd pieces in it now, with about 30 different color choices, and you can customize various features of those. We don't have minimum order quantities within that, so you really can start with whatever you feel fits best for your office. But within that, you can choose obviously the frame style, multiple sizes in most of those. You can choose your colors, and you can mix and match your front colors with your temple colors. You can also choose your finishes, whether you want them a matte finish or polished finish. We have different hinge types if you want to get that deep, and then also all of the engravings. So we take your brand name or your office name, however you're wanting to move forward with that. But you can also change any of our style names to better relate to your clientele. So a lot of our partners will take that and have local landmarks or staff names or something like that that really draws it in a little bit closer to give you that extra touch. So that's our private label side. We make that really streamlined, really easy. You can think of it as you're essentially ordering from any other frame company with a couple of extra add-ons if you wish. Then we have our small batch production side, and that's the beauty of handling all of the design and manufacturing in-house. We have the ability to build a completely custom collection, whether it's a one-off piece for a specific patient or a full collection for a brand you're trying to start up and even eventually wholesale. And that process is a little bit different. It's a little bit more of a collaborative effort. So you sit down, we hop on calls, emails, texts. I mean, there's a lot of communication back and forth as we help you handle that design process. And we can work from really any stage with that, whether you have some best-selling styles that work really well, we can create your own version of that. We like to say we don't want to copy anybody, but we all have those styles that work best in our office and for our clients. So we can make your own version with some tweaks and color changes and things like that to truly make it yours. We also can work from the roughest of sketches. I mean, not all of us are artists, myself included. I can't draw to save my life, but I can definitely handle the design software and create what you want. But I'm really good at reading kind of the direction you're wanting to go. So if you have rough sketches with some notes, we can turn that from that rough sketch into a 3D model and eventually sample that. So we really have whatever you want to make, even a blend of that, that's all a possibility.
So I do want to reiterate though, because you didn't mention it, but we had talked about it prior, is you say that you're not an artist, but in reality, tell us, you have experience doing this. Like this is not your first rodeo, right? You've been doing
Yeah.
this for a while. I think you even mentioned that you took like a class or a course. So it's
Yeah.
not like as an eye doctor, I don't know how to design eyewear. I don't know the basic thing about how to start designing eyewear, but we have you that
Yeah,
has the
exactly.
experience and took the
Yep.
courses that can help us, right? So it's not so daunting.
Yes, of course. And when I say I'm not an artist, typically I mean that more in I can't draw very well.
Oh, okay.
Um, every artist has their medium, right?
Right.
I can make some great eyewear, and we have a team here with us that we've trained and does an amazing job. So yeah, we're really about making the highest quality eyewear that we can possibly turn out, but also making sure that your vision is taken care of. So I often like to say, like, you guys can be the brains and we can be the hands to make that happen. So,
So my next question you kind of already answered, which is, are there any minimum quantities or other
mhm.
requirements a practice should be aware of? You said that there is no minimum, right?
Correct. Yes. So we are very passionate. I mean, having owned my own stores, wanting to go down this same avenue that we now help other people do, the thing that always hit us, there was always this roadblock of we only have a couple of stores. We don't necessarily need 300 pieces of one style or
Right.
500 pieces of one style. So as we've continued to scale, I mean, when I started making frames, it was one of one pieces completely done by hand. And now we've slowly just moved into high production equipment. But I've always been mindful to make sure we have the ability to create one piece or to create hundreds of pieces. So with that, we don't require order minimums. Our pricing does scale. So the more pieces you order, the less you'll pay per unit. But we really want to make it available to truly anybody and everybody that has the dream to create their own eyewear.
So let's say, right, I'm an optometrist and I think I want to do this. I want to
Mhm.
create my own frame line. What is the average time commitment
Mhm.
and financial investment required to get started? And the reason that I ask this is because a lot of us we're thinking, okay, maybe I want to do this next year, or maybe I want to do it next quarter,
Mhm.
right? How much time and how much of my budget for frames
Yeah.
should I set aside to start, let's say, a collection? Because really, I think like a good robust collection would be like 36 pieces, at least 36 pieces, right?
Yeah.
36 to 50 pieces that would really represent your private label. So
Absolutely.
what would be the time commitment and the ballpark budget so that doctors can set that money aside to get ready?
For sure. For sure. So with our private label clients, especially, turnaround's a little bit faster because we have most of those plugged in, ready to go. We typically say our opening orders for those, you'll be about 4 to 6 weeks. And then with our small batch process, Timing really depends on the complexity, how many alterations we end up making, and things like that. But as soon as it goes into production, it kind of falls within those same time frames. Everything we do is made to order because of all the ability or the options to customize those frames. As far as costs go, typically a private label collection starts at about 30 pieces. That tends to be that average, and you'll fall anywhere from about 2,500 to $3,000, somewhere in there for that. The small batch, there's so many more options within that, like special ordering materials from Italy or Japan, customized hardware, all the design setups and things like that. So that pricing can range a little bit more. 5 to 8,000 is probably pretty normal for a startup. Sometimes a little
Mhm.
bit less, sometimes a little bit more.
So now I have my private label collection, right? My frame. Do you offer any support with branding, packaging, displays, point of purchase materials, staff training, or marketing materials?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something we're really working on right now as well to get all of these options rolled out, especially as we start to scale up our production. Customized cases. So we're right in the middle of creating logo plaques for all of our existing accounts and getting that kind of dialed in to where you're not just handing them a pair of glasses with a case. Your case is also branded. We have photo shoots scheduled literally next week, I believe. So you'll have all of that will tie into POP, posters. I mean, really anything you feel fits best with your practice to highlight your brand. As far as training goes, I'm very available and very passionate about making sure you guys have all of the tools to be successful with that. Within our private label collection, we also have the options to what we call tailor fit or bespoke fit any of our frames. When we have accounts that are interested in that, then we are happy to jump on a call and walk you through the process of what we're looking for. Like if you, for example, last week we changed a frame from a 47 eye to a 53 eye, and instead of a 140 temple, we did a 160 temple. So we have those options, and those are typically the times that it's great to jump on a call with the entire team and walk you through the process of what's realistically available, where our limitations stand, and so forth. But yeah, we're very passionate, being opticians, knowing what goes into selling the perfect pair of glasses. We want to make sure you guys have those same tools.
Wonderful. Um, I do want to touch on the importance of bringing your staff on board with this collection, right? Because if we're going to make this investment, right? Let's say, okay, we are invested, we have set aside $10,000 to do our own private label
Mhm.
frame. You probably don't want to just do it and then tell your staff, hey, by the way, guys,
For
here's
sure.
50 frames.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
our brand, sell them. And
Right.
they're luxury, so they're going to be priced at X point.
Right.
Um, Tell us a little bit about how maybe the staff can get involved, how they can feel a sense of ownership when it comes to your private label.
Yeah, I'm always telling clients and people that are looking into working with us, involve your team in the entire process, whether it's private label or our small batch option. Like, let them help you choose the styles, especially your opticians. They're there, the ones selling them. They see the glasses on the people's faces most often. Have them help you in choosing your colors and your finishes. I always love when you get multiple opinions, right? Because sometimes they'll align, sometimes they won't, but there may be a really good point that we're overlooking. So, as involved as you're comfortable with letting your team be, I say let them dive in with you, especially once we get to that point where you're choosing the finished frames. Like, let's make sure you have your colors that your client base is going to look into and be the most interested in, as well as let's make sure your styles mesh. And then one of my favorite parts, because we can change any of the style names within that private label collection, kind of let your team help you decide some of those style names, especially because more than likely they're all local as well, so they may have
Right.
some fun ideas to make it a little bit different.
I love that idea. So I want you to share a success story because I know you have many clients and share a success story and maybe why that particular practice was so successful.
Yeah, for sure. One of my favorites, that probably relates more to this publication would be The Office of Luke New Canaan. Dr. Stewart has done an amazing job with this cold start. And she was one of our earliest adopters. She really believed in what we were doing and has been such a huge supporter. Um, and she, I mean, is one of our loudest supporters. She tells so many people how beneficial it is to offer your own collection. And she has kind of doubled down on that. Her branding revolves around her collection. I mean, she obviously carries many other great independent options, but her and her team really kind of dive into the ability to customize, especially engravings for their patients to really make them their glasses. So when we'll do one-offs and things, we'll customize those engravings to whatever their patients may want, whether it's their name or a favorite quote or something like that. But I can't say enough good things. They have done an amazing job kind of taking what we've dreamed up and rolling with it and making it their own, I mean, their own monster. It's a really incredible thing they're doing out there.
So to clarify, her practice will order one frame and then you make it and then you laser it with the patient name, and then that whole process takes around how long?
Couple weeks. So typically
Okay.
patient refills and special orders of small quantities are out within 2 weeks.
Okay. So it would be reasonable to tell the patient this is a custom frame, it's going to have your name. I always tell my staff, always under promise and over deliver,
Yes,
right? So I
for,
tell them maybe 4 to 6 weeks,
for sure.
but
Yeah,
you know that the process is going to take maybe 2 to 3 weeks, but you
yeah,
always want to tell them, listen, this is I mean, all glasses are customized, right? They are
for
made
sure.
with your prescription, but
Yep.
the fact that they are lasered with your name really gives the patient that sense of ownership to
Yeah.
their glasses, right?
Yeah. And it allows them to really kind of put their own touch on top of your office and your team's approach and touch to everything. It gives your patients that ability to be like, hey, these are mine. They were made for me. So
Yeah. So, what advice would you give a practice owner that is hesitant to start?
that's a great question. I mean, I'm always one of those people, I tend to be like an early adopter, if you will. Um, Take the jump. I mean, if you're already spending the time to build that following within your community, this is just one more thing you can really do to double down on that. And we really haven't had like a negative connotation with having your own brand. It's really only been positive things. And in my eyes, having experienced it on every end, I mean, from literally selling it to my own patients, that's how we test most of our new styles, to hearing from our partners how great they're doing with it. I I really don't see a way that it can be a bad thing for your practice.
I want to touch upon more about the customization because you are one of the very few companies that has you have I assume ready made that
Mhm.
they can pick and choose, but
Yep.
you also have the more customized.
Yeah.
So I want to touch on that because, for example, my practice, I'm in an area in Chicago where my patient demographic is 95% Latino Hispanic,
Yeah.
right? Some, Black American as well, but that's the main demographic. When I first started 20 years ago, I could not find frames that fit my patient. I
Yeah.
could not find frames that fit my face. And I remember because when you first start, I opened cold, I did the exam and I also styled the patient.
Yep.
And I was picking the frames when the reps came from the frame companies. And I remember trying them on and saying, none of these fit.
Hmm.
Like if they don't fit me, they're not going to fit my patient.
Yeah.
So I remember I would find 2 or 3 frames that fit beautifully, and then they would discontinue them,
Yeah.
right? And so here we go again with, so if you have a practice where you really want to cater to your demographic, and maybe your demographic, in my case, well, we have wider faces, but there are demographics where they're very petite,
Yeah.
and the last thing you want to do is have your practice filled with children frames, right?
Yep.
You don't want that.
For sure.
And being able to customize the size, the color, and the style of the frames for your patients is really going to propel your
Yeah,
capture rate. Because once they find that one frame that fits them beautifully, they're going to be like, do you have this in another color? Kind of like shoes, right? Like these fit beautiful. I need them in every color. And that is going to differentiate you from the optical chains or any other private practice
absolutely.
down the street.
Yeah.
So, do you have maybe a success story like that? Or do you have customers like that? Tell us a little bit about that.
For sure. I actually have one client in Chicago who
Ooh.
he utilizes us in basically exactly what you're saying. I always say most frame manufacturers and companies, they're designing for 80% of the faces out there. There are 10% that need a much wider frame, and there's 10% that need a much smaller frame, or they have a very flat bridge or a very wide bridge, or, no two faces are ever the same. So, with my background, when I started making frames, it was very bespoke focused, which means we took that person's exact face and we would build the frame around their face. And we have been passionate, just like with no minimum order quantities and things like that, to make sure that's always a possibility and an option. So within our private label collection, you can take any of those styles, and while we offer them in multiple sizes to try and cover those bases and make it easy, if you do run into a patient that is a more difficult fit, we can change any aspect of the frame. I mean, all of our clients differ in how technical they want to get within that design process, but we can change A measurements, B measurements, bridge fits. We can add nose pads to any frame. If they don't want nose pads, we can also play with changing the display angle of the actual saddle bridge within the frame. We can change temple lengths. I mean, truly, we can take any of those frames and redesign them to make them fit as we all would want them to. And like you said, there are a lot of people out there that can never find that perfect fitting frame, or if they have a very petite face, they end up wearing children's frames. If they have a very large face, let's say they end up in these frames that are either way too big or they're wide enough, but the temples are too short. So we're passionate about giving those options to make sure anybody and everybody can find a frame that fits them while still matching their personality and the colors and everything that they want within that.
Okay, so let's say I'm ready. I'm
Mhm.
ready. What would the process be? It would be go to your website or give you a call or set up a Zoom call. Like, what? Take me through the steps.
Yeah, typically the best way to get a hold of us, because we make frames pretty much all day. We're relatively small. Email is typically best to set up a call. You're always welcome to give us a call as well. If we don't answer, we'll get back with you. You'll typically hear from either myself or Reggie is on it as well and does a great job of really getting a feel for what you're wanting to create. And then we all collaborate and help bring that to life. So our email is info@lfvreyewear.com. That's typically the easiest way. You can also jump on our website, submit a contact form there. We're very easy. You can jump on our Instagram, DM us there. I mean, we're all about if you have any questions, find us wherever it's easiest for you to find us, and we'll make sure those questions get answered.
Thank you so much for joining us and for answering all of our questions today. Stay tuned. We will continue these private label conversations with other companies so that you can compare and find the perfect partner for your practice. Until next time, I'm Dr. Diana Canto-Sims, and I hope you're feeling inspired to take the next step in building your own private label frame brand. Thank you so much. Bye.